I've made over $25,000 in a single month on Amazon KDP during Q4, and in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can do the same. Now, Q4 is by far the most profitable time of the year on Amazon KDP, and a huge part of any successful Q4 period is making sure your Amazon KDP ads are optimized to drive as many sales as possible for as cheap as possible. So in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do to make sure your KDP ads are ready to deliver the best Q4 you've ever had. Now, as you're gonna see in this video, Q4 is the best time to be advertising on Amazon KDP, but you need to make sure your campaigns are ready for that period. So I recommend as soon as you've watched this video, go ahead and start creating your ads to give you as much time as possible. And I'll leave a link to the ads console in the description if you wanna make it even easier to get there. So now for the Q4 ad strategy. And sadly, Amazon ads aren't as simple as just pressing a button and watching the sales roll in, at least not at first anyway. But the overall goal of any ad campaign is to have a list of keywords or products that you can target that you know convert into sales, or I call these golden targets. But in order to find these golden targets, you really need to start extremely broad and gradually narrow yourself down until you start finding them. And a big part of that is testing out ads. And I appreciate that might sound a little bit complicated at first, but please do stay with me and I'm going to explain everything in as simple terms as possible. And the key with Q4 is once you have these golden targets, you can double down on them and massively capitalize on the uplift in traffic in them. Because within Q4, there's a huge increase in traffic through every single product and keyword on Amazon. So all of these extra ones that were already converting for you now, there's just gonna be even more traffic in there. So the more people you can push to those, the more sales you're going to make. And if any of this confuses you at any point, you can join my completely free Amazon KDP community, which I'll leave links down in the description, and you can ask me any questions that you have about this video or anything KDP related over there. So back to our Q4 strategy, and we know that the end goal of all of our campaigns, the ideal situation, is that we have a list of keywords and a list of products that we know convert to sales on our books at a profitable rate. But in order to get there, we need to find them in the first place, and we find them using really broad experimental ads. So essentially there are two types of ads. Number one, they're broad and discovery ads, and the goal of these ads is to cast a really wide net and just see how many of these golden targets we can find. And then the second type of ad are the money makers. These are ads that only bid on these golden targets, and therefore these are the ones that are gonna be making you a lot of money. These broad discovery ads, their main goal is not to make you loads of profit. Their main goal is to find as many of these golden targets as possible. Then once you target those golden targets in their own campaigns, that is where you make the money. So here's a visual example of what all of this looks like. So these are your broad discovery ads. So you maybe have an auto ad and then another discovery ad. So this could be like a keyword ad that's just really broad with loads of different broad search terms in there. And like I say, the goals of these two initial ads are to harvest exact products and exact keywords that convert really well and really profitably. So these are the first ads that you will launch. And an important thing here is do not be afraid to spend aggressively here. Like I say, the goal isn't profitability with these ads. The goal is to harvest as much data as possible, which is why it's really important when you're watching this video to launch your campaigns as soon as possible, because the sooner you can get these out, the sooner you can get all of that data back and then start targeting these really profitable keywords. So let's just say, for example, you found loads of really good products that converted really well and really profitably in your auto ad. You would take these out of your auto ad and then start targeting them in their own specific ad campaign, because all of these products you know do really well for you. You can just start piling money into there because they're super profitable and they're giving you a massive return on your investment. You know they work because you've got the data from your broad ads. So before we move on, I'm just going to show you how you can set up your own broad campaign. So jump into your ad campaign setup. We want to go for a standard ad and then just choose the book that you want to advertise against. So I'm going to choose this one, which is just a generic activity book. Obviously, I'm blurring out my book because I don't want people to see. So because we want it to be a broad campaign, you have two options. You can either do automatic targeting. That just basically means it's going to automatically target your book and place it against certain products and keywords based on your book's data. So this can be a good way of doing a broad ad. I'll then set the default bid a little bit higher than just the one suggested. So I'll go for something like 70 cents for this. It depends entirely on what your book is and what the niche it's in, but generally just go a little bit higher than Amazon's suggested bid, because ultimately the goal here is just to get as much data as possible. The more we bid, the more data we'll get. So very simple auto ad, go through and then go to the bidding strategy. It's completely up to you what you want to use. I will go for down only because we've already gone over the default bid here. And then you can just go ahead and name your campaign. So we're going to go for auto discovery and then book name here. And then set your daily budget something quite high. So let's go for $10, maybe go for $20 if you have a bit more budget. It completely depends on person to person. And then you can go ahead and launch that campaign. And that's basically going to cast this super wide net, look at all of your book's metadata and show your book against certain products and keywords with a relatively high default bid. Now, alternatively, if you wanted to set up a broad ad using manual targeting, which I also recommend, I recommend you do both. Go for manual targeting, make sure you choose keyword targeting, and then all of these specific keywords here, make sure you target them with the broad or the phrase. For this one, I'm just going to go for broad. And then all of the related keywords that could be related to this book, just add all of these in. Now, you're going to want to go through and actually add the proper ones in here. I'm just showing this as an example. So some of these might not be relevant to the book, but any kind of broad word that you think might be related to the book, add that to your campaign here. And again, make sure your bids are relatively competitive. So we can up this one to something like 60 cents and then just go ahead and press save. So essentially you've got all of these keywords targeted in the broad match type to try and get as many exact phrases back as possible. And then very similarly, negative keyword targeting, choose your bidding strategy. Again, I recommend going down only. If you've gone quite aggressive with your default bids, or if you've gone quite restrictive, you can go for the up and down. And then just name this one. We're going to go for broad, manual discovery. Realize I didn't put discovery last time. And then book name. So now you've got two campaigns that you've launched. You've got your auto discovery campaign and you've also got your manual discovery campaign, and they are both casting as wide net as possible and trying to find as much data as possible. So now we've done that, let's jump back into the slides. And that essentially is the ad structure, but how do you actually go and identify these golden targets in the first place? Well, you have to be looking at the Amazon ad metrics. So what metrics specifically am I talking about that you need to look at? Well, in the advertising console, you're able to select a number of different metrics using this columns drop down. And I recommend selecting all of the metrics that you can see here. I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly what metric is doing what and why they're important. First one, impressions. Impressions, for those of you who don't know, is just essentially the number of times that your ad is seen by someone. So a low number of impressions basically means people aren't seeing your book. This could either suggest your bids are not high enough, or the keyword or product just isn't relevant for what people are searching for. So there's multiple ways as to why your impressions might be low, but low impressions is never really a good sign because it means people aren't seeing your ad. You then have clicks, quite straightforward, the number of times your ad is clicked by someone. You then have click-through rate, and that's the percentage of times your ad is clicked when it was seen by someone. So 129 is 0.33% of 39,222. So your click-through rate is made up of clicks and your impressions. And this is really important because it shows you essentially how many people are seeing it and then clicking through to it as a percentage. So more specifically, a low click-through rate means people are seeing your book ad, but they aren't clicking it, i.e. it's a bad target, it's positioned poorly. Or a high click-through rate means your ad is being clicked a lot relative to the number of people who see it, i.e. the majority of people who see it are really interested in. So a high click-through rate can be a very good thing. The next metric is spend, quite straightforward. How much have you spent on the ad? You then have cost per click. So on average, how much each click has cost you. And by no surprise, this number is made up between clicks and also your spend. So if you've spent £34.95 and you've got 129 clicks, it's cost you 27 pence per click, quite straightforward. And the lower the cost per click, the cheaper it is for someone to click into your ad. So if your ad spend is really high, your cost per click might give you an idea as to why it's spending so high. Because if your cost per click is really, really high, that means every single time someone clicks on your ad, you're spending quite a lot of money, which ultimately is going to drive your ad spend high. So the lower the cost per click, the lower generally you will spend overall. We then have orders, again straightforward, the number of orders that that ad had led to. And crucially, these do not factor in organic orders. The orders that you see in your ads console are purely orders that came from Amazon ads. You will also have organic sales being made too that just don't pull through into your ad console. So you're actually making more than this in reality when you add your organic sales too. Finally, sales, the sales revenue generated from those orders. It's worth mentioning here, this is a sales number, not a royalty number. So if you sell your book for £6.99, £6.99 times by the number of units is going to be your sales amount. Your actual royalty number that you take back is going to be less than that. So it can be a little bit difficult in the ads console to work out what's profitable and what isn't. And that is why you have the ACoS metric, which stands for advertising cost of sale, and basically represents what percentage of your sales number was spent on advertising, i.e. how much of all of your sales you actually spent on ads to make those sales. And as I say, your ACoS is the easiest way of tracking how profitable your ad campaign or your ad target is. So with that in mind, here is how you can measure how profitable your ad is by calculating your break-even ACoS. So to calculate your break-even ACoS, you need to take the royalty amount you get when you sell 1 unit of your book, and then divide that by the sale price, i.e. £6.99, would give you a break-even ACoS of 28.6%. So looking at this example here, we have a break-even ACoS of 28.6%, and we can see through all of these campaigns which ones are profitable and which ones are not. This first one here, ACoS of 33.33%. So anything over 28.6 is technically unprofitable. So 33.3%, this ad is technically unprofitable. This ad is also technically unprofitable, and these two are profitable. So without having to go in and do the calculations of calculating your sales into royalties and dividing that by how much you've spent, you just need to calculate your break-even ACoS and then look at this number. Is it above or below your break-even ACoS? And that is your answer to if an ad is profitable. And it's exactly the same when you're looking at it as a keyword. So let's just say this was a certain keyword here rather than actual ad campaign. The keyword was, let's just say, animal coloring book for kids. The animal coloring book for kids got us 39,000 impressions, and then all of these different metrics, and it had an ACoS of 33.33%. This would not be considered a golden target because yes, it's generating sales, but it's not converting them at a profitable ACoS. On the flip side, if this was another keyword, animal gift for boys, it got 22,000 impressions, 1,300 sales with an ACoS of 21.3%. So not only has this driven 183 orders as a keyword, it's also driven them profitably. So this is an example of a golden target we would then take out of an ad and then start targeting it specifically in its own campaign, because we know if we just throw loads of money at this, it's only going to come out and give us more money back than we invested into it, which is why it's important to harvest these keywords. Now I know this can be a little bit confusing. This is quite high level stuff. So if you do have any questions or you're confused at any point, like I say, join my community, ask me all of the questions in there. I'll be more than happy to help you out. So like I say, this can be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to walk you through an example step by step, showing you exactly how I would do this. So here is the example that we're going to be walking through. Let's just say we have an animal coloring book and we launched an animal coloring discovery campaign. So remember, the discovery campaign, the initial campaigns that you launch, the ones that I recommend launching as soon as you finish watching this video. The goal of this is to try and harvest and find as many golden targets as we possibly can. So really wide net with this animal discovery ad. As you can see, we've got 17,500 impressions. We've got 31 orders with a 43.84% ACoS. So this ad isn't running profitably technically at this point, but what it is doing is harvesting loads of golden targets for us that will be super profitable. And it's these golden targets where we're going to end up spending most of our money anyway. So don't worry if this is slightly unprofitable. The goal is just to harvest data. So when we click into our animal discovery campaign, these are all of the keywords that we are currently targeting. So we have animal book, kids book, the animal, and kids coloring. And we're doing these on broad match types. So for those of you that don't know the different Amazon ad match types, I will leave them here to show you exactly what they mean. But essentially in this case, broad is, by no surprise, the broadest one you can do. So essentially when anyone types in anything into Amazon that contains the word animal and the word book in any order. It can have words before, in between, after, whatever, as long as it contains the two words animal and book somewhere in there, our ad is going to bid for it. So as you can imagine, bidding for loads of keywords, which is exactly what we want to do with these discovery campaigns. And it's the same for all of these individual keywords. So for example, in this keyword animal book, if someone typed in animal coloring book for kids, we would potentially have that as a keyword that's going to be showing up in this match type, because animal is the first word, coloring, and then book also appears there. So within this broad keyword here, there's going to be loads of individual specific search terms. And in order to find that data, just go over to the search terms tab at the side of your ads console and all the data will be there. So once you've clicked on this search term data, this is the kind of table that you'll see. So I'm just going to move myself up here so you can actually read the table. Bear with me, this looks really complicated, but trust me, it is easy to understand. So what you can see here is all of these keywords here. So animal book, kids book, the animal and kids coloring. These are all the broad keywords that we've put into our campaign. So they're going to be one of those four. And next to each of these, we can see the exact target that this keyword found. So animal book, animal coloring book is the exact search term that this broad animal book under the broad match type connected with, because it contains the word animal and it contains the word book in any order. Exactly the same for this next keyword, fun animal kids book, is just another way a customer can search for pretty much the same thing, but they've just worded it differently. But that's not a problem because animal book still appears in this search term. So you can see the value of starting really broad and then bringing in as many of these specific keywords as possible. So I'm just going to remove myself and just talk over this to make sure you can see the entirety of the table. Now this table you can see on screen here is exactly the same as the one I've just mentioned in the previous slide. So looking at all this data, I'm going to ask you a question. Which keywords would you move into an exact campaign based off this? Now, if you guessed these three keywords, then you are absolutely correct. Now, just don't worry too much about the specific numbers in this. This is just dummy data that I've set up to help get this idea across. In reality, these numbers would probably be a lot higher. You'd spend more than $10, you'd get more than 5 orders. Let's just pretend maybe it's 10x, so it's $100 spent and 50 orders. That would be a little bit more realistic. So as you can see, these three are the keywords we're going to be moving, and this is why. Animal coloring book delivered 5 orders, so it shows that this keyword can convert to sales, and it can do so at a profitable ACoS. It's borderline, it's almost break even, but that is good enough for us. We know if we spend £100 into this ad, we're going to get way more than £100 back. So this is the first product target we're going to move into its exact campaign. We then have animal activity book as another keyword. This drove 6 sales at an ACoS of 19.1%. So not only is this driving sales, it's doing so at a really profitable ACoS. So we know, let's just say we put $800 into this ad and we 10x'd it. We're going to get 600 orders back of this because we know this keyword converts well at a profitable ACoS. Therefore, we take it out of the broad campaign and into its own exact campaign. Now, it might sound like a broken record, but I really want to nail down and make sure you understand exactly how this whole strategy works. So, taking it from an auto campaign into their exact campaign. And the final keyword we would use is the animal coloring book. Again, driven loads of sales with a profitable ACoS. So these are the ones we're going to move. These other ones, we're going to leave them exactly as they are because these may be driving sales. You see this one here has driven 5 orders, but the ACoS is quite unprofitable. So if we just put maybe $100 into this, yes, we might get more orders, but we're also going to have a more unprofitable ACoS. So we don't want to move that into its exact campaign. So you can kind of see now exactly how this strategy works and why it's important to get this data as soon as you possibly can, especially ready for the peak Q4 period at the end of November towards early mid-December. And finally, we've said we're going to take these 3 keywords out of this campaign and move them into their own exact match campaign. What else do we need to do? We need to add them as negative targets because there's no point moving all of these out into their own campaign. And then we're still targeting these exact search terms in the broad campaign too, because we're just bidding against ourselves and there is no point in doing that. So for every keyword or products that you take out of your broad campaigns, make sure you target them negatively in those broad campaigns and basically tell Amazon, we've taken these out, we don't want to be targeting them anymore in this broad campaign because we're already targeting them somewhere else. So how this looks, all 3 of these keywords are now taken out of that campaign. So these are no longer going to be showing up for this broad discovery ad, and they now all sit in their own individual campaign. Campaign 1, campaign 2, and campaign 3. And these are the campaigns that are going to make you a lot of money because, like I say, we know they convert to sales and we know they do so with a profitable ACoS. So the more we can invest in there, the more we're going to get back out. And that is the Q4 ad strategy. Now, I appreciate this is quite high level stuff, and this is the sort of stuff I do cover in my Amazon KDP Accelerator. All of the course contents there is the really high value Amazon KDP stuff. So hopefully this gives you a bit of a taster as to what you can expect from that accelerator program. And if you do want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description down below. So that was my Q4 Amazon KDP ad strategy. Like I say, if you do have any questions, please do let me know in my community and I'll be more than happy to answer those. And of course, make sure you launch these campaigns as soon as you possibly can. I will leave a link to the Amazon Ads Console below this video in the description. But thanks for watching. I hope you found some value and I will see you in the next one.